Ciao a tutti, this is Prof. Joe at Prof. Joe Explains, and I'm here for a wrap-up of Day 12 of the Kouri Richins murder trial, which, as it turns out, is the last day that we'll be hearing any evidence in the case. You heard it right. The defense, after saying repeatedly it had a list of witnesses to call, called no one, and Kouri Richins is not testifying. So what happened and why? Today there was a very long, discussion outside the presence of the jury with regard to evidence that would come in. And today's discussion I thought was very interesting. The defense tried once again to get in some version of evidence from a witness called David Norris. There was a long pretrial hearing about whether his evidence could be heard. It was hearsay. It did not come in under any specific exception to the hearsay rules. There's a general residual catch-all rule that says, gee, if no other exception covers, maybe you can still get it in because it's reliable, but you have to meet certain criteria. The defense could not meet the criteria. Today, the defense tried again to get in the testimony. Evidently, he was going to say that Eric had tried to get fentanyl from him. There also evidently were quite a few issues with his testimony. It sounded as though the state at least believed that someone on the defense side put him up to making this claim. And also, when law enforcement looked into it, they found inconsistencies and all kinds of problems with his testimony. The defense pushed about it today, and ultimately the judge found a case that said it had the right to do it, to get this in some form, because it related to the defense's theory that the law enforcement had done a really bad job with the investigation. But then the judge dropped a bombshell, and he said, but realize that if this testimony comes in from David Norris, then the state has the right to bring in testimony from Hayden Jeffs, who was, I think, a caretaker or a landscaper of Kouri's, and also from Ben Savage. Hayden Jeffs had told his sister that Kouri had phoned him to ask him if he could get fentanyl for her. And he had said, it's a really dangerous drug, you don't want to do it. And then she said, well, how about the Michael Jackson drug? So his testimony not only would have corroborated Carmen Lauber, but it was independent evidence that Kouri was looking for fentanyl. In addition, Ben Savage, who was a boyfriend of Carmen Lauber, was in prison, or jail, I think, and it told an inmate that Carmen had told him that she had just recently, and this is March 4th, gotten a lot of money for getting fentanyl for Kouri. Those two statements would have come in. They would have been devastating to the defense. The defense took some time to decide whether it was still going to be pushing for David Norris. It ultimately said, gee, we didn't decide. It told the judge again that it was going to be bringing witnesses in. The state finished its case. The defense finished its examination of Detective O'Driscoll, who was the lead investigator. The state came back and I think did a really good job on direct with him. Then the state said it was resting. The defense got up. They had taken about a half hour to talk to Kouri. They got up and said she didn't want to testify. The judge made clear that it was voluntary. She's not going to testify. And the defense said it was resting too. And there we were with our mouths open because we thought we were going to hear some testimony today. Tomorrow they're going to deal with jury instructions. Monday should be closing arguments. Interesting day. Ciao a tutti.